Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's poppin', fantasy champs? My name's Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon with me as always. Poppin' Ricardo.
What's up?
Oh boy, I can legitimately smell the football season. I can't taste it yet. Still can't taste it. It's probably the COVID.
You definitely have COVID.
Yeah, that would be it. But the football season is getting closer and closer. When you listen to this, is probably Saturday, maybe Friday night. But we are in the midst of the final week of the preseason.
That's, dude, kind of exciting. Not gonna lie.
I know. After this, training
Almost
camp's
here.
over. It's done.
Wow,
David
dude.
Blau
I'm excited.
is going to get cut from the Detroit Lions, and the Hard Knocks people are going to be like, what the frick?
No.
Why would you do that and go with Tim Boyle as your backup? I don't think it matters.
No, it doesn't.
Anyway.
So you've been watching Hard Knocks, huh? You like it?
Oh, I love it. It's great. It's fantastic. It's better, way better than last season, although every other sentence has a F word in it, which is expected. It's Dan Campbell.
I was going to say it's Dan Campbell.
I'm like, not a bad thing. It's just different. I don't think I heard Dallas swear as much. That fat oaf over there coaching that team.
Maybe it'll help the Lions. Who knows?
Who knows? They have a giant mural on the wall, or text mural that says grit.
That's hilarious, dude. I love the Lions. I'm rooting for them.
That's what I'm saying. I can't. You can't not root for the Lions. But anyway, so the football season is it's fast approaching, closer and closer every day. I want to say next week and next weekend are probably, there's a lot of drafts happening this weekend, but there's a lot of drafts next weekend, probably a majority of them. There was another league that Rick and I were in last year. I don't know if you remember this league, Rick. I forgot to tell you this pre-show, but we haven't even gotten to the introduction part, but anyway. We were in a league. You were the co-commissioner. I was the commish. We're back in that league this year, and that draft happens to be the same night as our home league draft. So at 10:30 p.m. So legitimately going to be drafting back-to-back in two separate redraft leagues on September 5th, and then I have another draft on September 6th. So crunch time.
Dude, you drafting a lot of late leagues.
Yeah. Yep. I like it that way. But anyway, before we jump into our main show and explain what we're going to do, check our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and your podcast platforms, please leave a review, share this pod with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, comment down below, like, and then click the bell for notifications. And then be sure to hit the big red fat subscribe button and subscribe to the show so you get updates about what's happening. And it also
do that.
We'll recommend our videos to you, which would be probably good.
Yeah, so you can watch all of our stuff
and
then steal all of our plays if you haven't played a league with us.
That's true. But anyway, so today we are going to talk about some must-draft players. If you saw it on the YouTube thumbnail, saw it in the description of this video, or the title of this video, we're going to talk about some early round must-draft players. So Rick and I are going to pick a player in each round that we are essentially saying needs to be on your fantasy team and is a must-draft for 2022 fantasy football leagues. So without further ado, let's jump into it. What say you, Rick?
Let's do it.
All right. So basically, the way this is going to be structured is we're going to do the first 4 rounds of your draft. So these are the early rounds. This is the foundation of your fantasy team. So essentially, the way it's going to be structured is Rick will pick first in the first round. I'll pick second. And then the second round will reverse. And then the third round will reverse again, so on and so forth. So we're going to pick our number one player from each round and tell you that you should draft them and why you should draft them. And then if we disagree, Rick and I can yell at each other. So anyway, let's get it kicked off with you, Rick. Give us your number one must draft player in the first round.
So I didn't want to go anyone who's like super, super obvious. I mean, Jonathan Taylor.
You could, because that would be must draft if you were one.
Right. But I'm going to say Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
He is my must draft in the first round. If you're going to draft a wide receiver.
This is half PPR too, by the way. Kind of a middle
This is
range.
half PPR. Okay.
Middle range
well, maybe I should have gone running
continue.
back.
You're good.
Oh, well.
No, I'm
still going to say Justin Jefferson.
Just for the listeners. You can
Fair. I'm going to say Justin Jefferson still.
Okay.
I did my projections, try to be unbiased as possible. And this was before I did my rankings or anything. So I just did my projections just purely based off of what happened last year, some subtle changes that I think is going to happen this year. And then I just wanted to put it in the computer and see what it says. And I had Justin Jefferson finishing with more fantasy points in half PPR than Cooper Kupp in 2022. So it kind of shows how I feel about Justin Jefferson this year. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell, the new head coach, was the OC in the Rams. He's going to do the same system. He's been on record saying he's going to use Jefferson like Kupp. In training camp, Justin Jefferson, I think, had a quote saying like, "Oh, I know why Kupp was so open. Like, I love this offense. It's great and all this stuff." He's going to be used as the Cooper Kupp from last year.
Yeah.
There's even been reports of him starting out in the backfield like Debo, and then they spread him out wide or give him like a screen pass out of the backfield. Like, they're just messing around with Jefferson, but they want to give him the ball. They're going to be a pass-first offense this year, which they have been in the past, but not as much as they're going to be this year. There's reports that they're going to really be a pass-heavy team, which is even better for Jefferson, who in his second year in the league was the wide receiver 4 and had 167 targets. So if he gets more targets and potentially another touchdown or two, he's the wide receiver 1 in all of fantasy. I think he's one of the safest plays, and he also has an enormous upside. He's just like the perfect wide receiver draft choice if you're going to go wide receiver.
Yeah, I've seen, obviously the consensus at the wide receiver position in pretty much every platform at this point to be the number one wide receiver off the board would be Cooper Kupp. But on this program, neither of us have Cooper Kupp as our wide receiver 1, and we don't have the same wide receiver 1. So
right.
So that means that Cooper Kupp is just, at this point 3. So
yeah,
there's that. But
kind of.
I agree with everything Rick said. I think the biggest situation with Justin Jefferson is the fact that he is going to see a new offensive system come in, one that is built in the Sean McVay system. They have a similar style quarterback. They have a similar style offense that they're going to run, and we saw what Cooper Kupp did last year with that. Justin Jefferson, if he gets an increased target share from last year, hey, what the frick? Like, it's not even fair at this point.
Right.
So, I would say that 170 is probably good, but I think the offense might be slightly more efficient than it was last year. And I think Justin Jefferson's a great pickup, even if he lands legit in the same spot he was last year in half PPR leagues, which was I hit PPR. Hold on a second. Which was
wide receiver 4.
Wide receiver 4. You're if you draft him as your first wide receiver, you're fine.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I think he might finish as the wide receiver 1 this year. I have him as a wide receiver 1.
Yep.
But his floor is also ridiculously high. Like, I think his floor, at worst, he's going to do what he did last year, which is the wide receiver 4 in fantasy.
Right. Which is an insanely high floor if he doesn't get hurt.
Right.
It's freaking mammoth. All right, so let me tell you my must draft. I would go running back.
It's fair.
But I feel like after JT and Christian McCaffrey,
okay,
it's kind of a wash at the running back position.
It's just a bunch of guys.
I like Derrick Henry. I like Austin Eckler. I like Najee Harris. I like Dalvin Cook. I like Joe Mixon. And I also like DeAndre Swift, but technically ADP-wise, he's a second-round pick, so he doesn't fit into our criteria. So for me, I don't look at any one of those backs as much. I mean, obviously, if you're in the first round and you're drafting a running back, then they're must drafts in the first round. Like all these guys, every single first round pick, I would say, unless Rick disagrees, is a guy that you should draft if you have the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, they're first round picks for a reason. There's no like.
But like if I had all the running backs available, obviously I would take JT and Christian McCaffrey over everyone in this field. But after that, like who is there that you would really say, you know what, that guy has to be on my team?
There's no way that I feel like there's not a third guy that just stands out.
Yeah.
Basically. Like I think Henry, Eckler, and Dalvin Cook for me are all in the same tier of like the next group. And then honestly, personally, I'm not that high on Najee Harris this year. So like I would say Mixon and Swift.
Are probably,
but Swift is a second round guy ADP wise. Kamara is a second round, and then you start getting to the second round guys. So honestly, there's definitely a big drop off after McCaffrey for me.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with the other guy, the other wide receiver one that I was mentioning, and it's Jamar Chase.
Oh, I love this.
I freaking love it.
Might be on my team.
Like Rick, honestly, we were trying to, stave off some suspect information in our home league because a couple of guys wanted to do a mock draft. So Rick and I swapped picks in the mock draft with them.
We did. That was funny.
And I took Jamar Chase, and if I was in Rick's spot at 9 or 8 or 7, I would take Jamar Chase.
I was gonna say, how high would you be willing to take Chase?
Probably 7.
Like
I would stop there.
Yeah,
probably 7.
I think that's fair.
But Jamar Chase, a lot of people are. It's interesting because Rick and I were talking before the show, and a lot of people are down on Joe Burrow. A lot of people are like, "All right, this guy's going to be a bust this year. He's not going to be the same." They're expecting some meaningful regression in many categories for Joe Burrow. But then you look at what the team did.
Mm-hmm.
Improve the offensive line. They still got all those weapons. Chase talked about in June in OTAs how the offense feels more familiar to him. It feels like he's more comfortable in the offense. The dude was a top 5 wide receiver last year, and he feels more comfortable in his offense. This is going to be I've kept with this opinion from the beginning. In Dynasty, Jamar Chase is my wide receiver 1. He is probably the best wide receiver I've seen come out in the amount of time I've watched football. So
yeah,
he's incredible, and he had an incredible rookie season. And I think with a good quarterback, an improved offense, and some really good things for Jamar Chase, I think it's sky's the limit from here. I think as a rookie, he was a top 5 wide receiver. Now he can ascend into that top 3 echelon. And I think if you want this year's wide receiver 1, you might get it in Jamar Chase. I think right now, actually for Rick and I, I feel like Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase are even for me at this point. But I do love Jamar Chase. He's got a 1% edge on Justin Jefferson. So I would take Justin Jefferson here as a must draft player in the first round. Any thoughts on that?
You mean Jamar Chase? Because I said Justin Jefferson.
Sorry, I meant to say Jamar Chase. Sorry, forgive me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have no problems with that. And as someone who's drafting 9 in our home league, that
gives you some
I'm very much okay with that. I definitely like Chase a lot. I think he has the same ceiling as Justin Jefferson. He, without a doubt, could be the wide receiver 1 in fantasy.
Yeah.
He just, to me, his floor is a little lower.
Yeah. Makes sense.
But I don't see the Burrow thing. The only reason why I am not super high on Burrow this year, it has nothing to do with him. It's just he's not really a rushing quarterback. He only had 100 yards rushing last year. So totally he has to be he has to have 55,000 yards.
Dude's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL right now. So
yeah, in real life, and I don't think that's changing.
Right.
So
I mean,
yeah,
hey, they ripped. Well, see, I would have loved to say they ripped Josh Allen's pants off, but Patrick Mahomes seems to do that regularly in the playoffs. So whatever. It was so funny. I was playing Madden 23 the other day, and they have the new overtime rules I forgot about. And so I was playing somebody online, and I got to overtime, and I was like, all right, here we go. And I lost the coin toss, and I was like, shoot. The guy scored, and I got so mad. I'm like, damn it, I lost.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had another possession, and I was like,
Yeah.
what happened?
You back.
So I don't know if the overtime rules are regular season. Is that regular season or postseason? Just postseason?
I think it's... Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
Actually,
But anyway,
I think it might be regular.
Each team gets a chance to score a touchdown. So now we're just going to keep throwing touchdowns. But anyway, let's move to the second round. I get first pick this time. And in the second round, there's a lot of different options. I feel the way in the second round that I do about the first when it comes to the wide receivers, that I felt it's the running backs in the first round, if that makes sense. Because I do like the wide receivers. You have CeeDee Lamb, one of my favorite players. He's going to get a huge workload. I don't mind Tyreek Hill and I don't mind Debo, but I feel like after CeeDee, there's like a giant teardrop.
Yeah.
And so I don't love any wide receivers, but the guy that I'm going to take, there's two guys that I'm really in on at running back, and I don't know which one I should go with, but I'm gonna go with DeAndre Swift as my second round, and that he's probably gonna be a first round pick in a lot of leagues, because when you get into your home league or your regular league, obviously we have our ADP that we've been sitting on for months, but typically in home leagues and typically in leagues where people aren't following fantasy football all year round, they go running back early. So I could see Swift slipping into the first round, but if he's in the second round and you have the opportunity to take him, I would take him. I think this Lions offense is going to be underrated, and no, it's not because I watch Hard Knocks and I got sweaty. I felt that they were going to be underrated for a while. I think Jared Goff loves to dump it off to the running back, which opens up a lot of pass catching work for Swift. And when he was on the field and healthy last year, he was essentially a top 5 or 6 running back in fantasy football. He had a stretch early in the season, like the first, I want to say 8 weeks, where he was ranked and he was finishing as like a top 5, 6, 7 running back in fantasy football. So he's an RB1. He's a great player. And I think with the offensive improvements they made this offseason by drafting Jamison Williams, who I don't know is going to make the field week 1. And then you also have, was it Chark or is it Chark, right?
Yes. Wait, what? Who?
The receiver they signed.
Yes.
Is it Chark? They got Chark, they got Hawk, they got Jamal Williams on the other side. They got made some small improvements to the offensive line. So I think offensively the Lions are going to be a lot better than people think they are. And because of that, I think that Swift ascends into a much higher category. I think he has top 5 upside in fantasy football because his elite pass catching work. And if you need a running back and Swift is there in the second round, I would take him. The concern for me is that Swift will probably not be there in the second round.
No. So that's my thing is like in our home league, and I've told you this before, I'm probably going to take Chase at 9. But if I go running back, I want to go Swift because I know for a fact he's not going to be there at the 2-4. But I know the person at the 111 and 112 wants him. So if I want DeAndre Swift, I have to take him 9th overall. So it's like, and I think there's a lot of leagues that are like that. If you want Swift, you're going to have to take him 9 or 10.
Yep.
But if he's there in the second round and on Underdog, I think he's like pick 17 or pick 18.
Wow.
So like, yeah, he's right in the middle of the second round.
Oh,
fantastic pick. In the second round. So you took the guy I wanted to say. So is Javonte a second or third round?
That's a second round pick. I already wrote it down for you.
Yeah, I was actually I was thinking about going Kamara. I could make the argument for either one, but I'll go Javonte because it's my guy, and you already wrote it down.
I'm like, I know who you're taking.
Pick 24. Honestly, in a lot of leagues, you can get him actually in the third round.
Yeah.
And he's like the classic third round example of those breakout running backs. I think the year Zeke broke out, he was in the third round. I think the year Todd Gurley broke out, he was in the third round. I think this year it's going to be Javonte. The only negative thing you ever hear about Javonte is Melvin Gordon. Well, Melvin Gordon has said
Love
that
Thank you, Melvin.
They want Javonte Williams to be the guy, and he's gonna be the guy.
Yeah. Right.
So if you think it's gonna be a 50-50 split, I think you're just wrong. I mean, we'll see how it plays out, but everything that from camp and everything, if Melvin Gordon is saying that, I would like to believe that that's how they're going to use it. And, you give Melvin Gordon that contract, it's like a 1 year, what was it, $2.5 million? You're not paying him that to be a starting running back. You're paying him that to be the backup to Javonte Williams. I think Melvin Gordon will still be used, and he'll still have a role in this team, but it's not going to be the starting running back role. I think it's probably going to be, some people think it's 50-50. I think it's going to be closer to 70-30, maybe like 65-35. I projected it out to be 60-40. Okay. So that's close to being a split, 60-40.
That seems.
And Javonte finished as my RB10 in a 60-40 for my projections.
And that's probably being safe.
And that is being a little safe. So he's in an offense that is going to be really good with Russell Wilson, 100 times better than it was last year. So he's going to have a lot of goal line work. He's already the pass catching back. If you look at his advanced analytics, he's in the top 5 in like juke rate, broken tackles, all these things. As a runner, every year we see a guy and we say like, oh, as a pure running back, that guy's really good. Nick Chubb. I think Javonte last year. Some people are getting a little over jealous and are saying Dameon Pierce this year, but that type of runner that just breaks tackles and goes off, and that's Javonte Williams. I think getting him in the second round could be a home run. Could absolutely. Is there a risk to Javonte Williams? Sure, but I think he's got a higher ceiling than most of the guys that you're going to draft in his range. So if you're there at the turn, you're at the 1-2. So this is why I hate you so much, because you're going to take Christian McCaffrey and then probably Javonte.
I've done so many mock drafts, and believe it or not, it's not that I am not taking Javonte; it's that he's not there. And
Fair. He probably won't be there in our league.
Wacky stuff from some of our league mates in the home league.
Yeah, but
again, should I take Javonte at 2-3? What?
in underdog, Javonte's there in the third round every draft, like middle third round. So
which
he's a home run there for sure. But I could have made the argument for Alvin Kamara because I'll just quickly say, gonna be suspended. Probably won't be. That's what people thought, at least. Probably won't be suspended. Maybe has a slight chance, so he is a little risky. But last year he was RB6 in points per game. And you're getting him in the second round. So he was better than Dalvin Cook last year.
Who's your third round must draft player?
So now we're getting into some of the nitty gritty stuff here.
Yep. I'm curious.
There's a couple guys that I like. Where does the ADP stop? Is that 36?
It's 25 to 36. So I would stop at the 25 to 30.
Okay. I'm gonna go with T. Higgins. People might have mixed opinions about that and might not like that. But I'm gonna go T. Higgins. I think in half PPR especially, so it changes a little bit. He's got really good upside because of his touchdowns and his yards, his big playability. I know Jamar Chase is there, so if you're drafting Jamar Chase, you're probably not going to want to do T. Higgins. But again, this is just based off my personal projections. I had T. Higgins behind CeeDee Lamb as ahead of Deebo Samuel as the wide receiver 7. And I don't have him ranked there. I have him ranked lower than that.
Yeah.
But it just kind of shows that people are scared about T. Higgins because Jamar Chase. And I don't think that's fair to Higgins, because in the second half of the season last year, I believe T. Higgins was the top 5 fantasy wide receiver. He was at least top 10. And in the Super Bowl, he had a monster Super Bowl. He had a monster playoff run. Even though Chase is the guy, they have about the same target share. They're pretty even on target share. Chase just has more big plays and more touchdowns. But if Burrow is going to throw, he threw 34 touchdowns last year. I think he's probably going to do another 34 this year. Chase can still have his, while Higgins also gets involved as well. We've seen examples of 2 wide receivers being top 10 guys in the past, and I think This year, it's 100% going to be T. Higgins. But you do have options in the third round. There's a couple guys that I would consider as being must drafts. I'm interested to see who you would say here in the third round, but I got T. Higgins.
Yeah. So T. Higgins, he's kind of growing on me a little bit, but I do, and I've talked about how I think if there's two teams or three teams in the NFL that I think could carry based on how their offenses are running, their quarterbacks and different stuff like that could carry two wide receiver ones essentially. That have the potential of doing that. That would be Los Angeles Rams with Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp. I think Cincinnati's in there with Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase, not Justin Jefferson. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, obviously. And then who was the third team? Oh, Denver Broncos with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. That's a lower on the list option, but I think it's high up there in terms of the chances of it happening. So I like T. Higgins. I think it's a good pick. I mean, last year I had him. Where did he finish? Where did he end up finishing last year?
I think he was like wide receiver 20, but he missed a couple games.
So he's wide receiver 20, 13 points per game, which would put him around like wide receiver 9 or 10.
Yep.
So I mean those are really great numbers. My only big concern with T. Higgins is I think he's going to be like a Mike Evans on a year to year where he's always wide receiver 8, wide receiver 9, wide receiver 10 possibly.
Yeah.
As long as Burrow is healthy. But I think touchdown upside is going to be a big concern for him because of Jamar Chase. And when they get into the red zone, that's going to be the first guy they target for the most part. So
sure.
That could be a problem with T. Higgins, but I think as a second-round pick, late second round, sometimes maybe even slipping into the third, like I think it's a wonderful pick. I think it's a great.
I mean, he's almost a fourth-round pick at this point.
Yeah.
So if you think Burrow is any good, I wouldn't really be concerned about the touchdowns because, like if he's throwing 35, 36 touchdowns, there's plenty to go around. Yeah,
100%. All right, so my guy, there's a couple of different options here that we can go with, but there doesn't seem to be like a massive smash play. I do love myself some Cam Akers, even though Fantasy Pros is like, he's
very risky.
He's going to be a bust. Whatever, dude. But I'm going to say A.J. Brown.
Oh, okay.
I'm planting the flag on A.J. Brown again. At first, I was a little bit like hesitant about the Eagles because I was like, they like to run the football. Well, so did Tennessee. They don't really have a massive target share to give to, neither did Tennessee. And Jalen Hurts probably the same as Brian Tannehill, right?
Yeah.
So it's basically an equivalent situation. But there has been a lot of good things coming out of Philadelphia about A.J. Brown and about the Eagles. And so where there was a little bit of nervousness about A.J. Brown, that's kind of subsided for me. I'm in. Like, I love A.J. Brown, not just as a player. He's one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL. But I think what Philadelphia is going to do here is a good thing. I think that the second wide receiver for A.J. Brown on this team is 9 times better than anything they had over there. Well, he was wide receiver in Tennessee. What was it?
Julio, bro. Too bad he's 100 years old.
Well, if it was OG Julio, we would have been like, okay, yeah.
Right.
But the Julio that you saw in the field last year was a joke, and he wasn't really on the field. So, obviously that's concerning. But you see him now with Devonta Smith and a decent offense. I think it's going to be good things for A.J. Brown. I just hope that the offense is as good as people have been saying it is. And if that is the case, then I think Brown will be fine. But I love him in the second round. I think it's a great pick.
Third round.
Third round, sorry. I meant to say third round. But I think it's a very, very good pick and a must draft in that area.
I've been down on A.J. Brown all offseason, but everything coming out of camp, man, is like him and Hurts have a connection, and he forces the ball to Brown, which is a good thing if you have A.J. Brown in fantasy. Like it feels like he's gonna really be the guy. And they, like Tennessee, the Eagles and the Titans last year, which poor A.J. Brown, were the teams that ran the ball the most,
Yeah.
or I should say just threw the ball the least, had the fewest pass attempts last year.
Yeah.
But in the preseason, and again, reports out of camp are saying that the Eagles are going to try to throw the ball more this year because they have A.J. Brown. So if they throw the ball more and they're forcing it to A.J. Brown, then he should feast.
Yeah.
And it's a good offense and all those things.
I agree.
Honorable mention, we'll play this or that, Fournette or Elliott?
Can I say neither?
You got to take one old man running back. Who's it going to be?
Brady returned to camp, right?
Yeah, he did.
Probably Fournette.
Yeah, me too.
It's close for me. I don't know. I don't know how close
it is close for me too. They're not like tiers. They're in the same tier.
I saw a mock draft you did the other day. I called it the old head team.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you had Lenny, you had Zeke. I was like, oh frick, dude.
But neither one of them, to me, they're both like low end, high end RB2s, low end RB1s. But yeah.
I would definitely take Fournette. But so my let's start the fourth round and then wrap up the show.
Okay.
My fourth round selection would probably, and there is a wide receiver I like. And this one's hard for me, but I'm going to go with running back Travis Etienne. I think that there's going to be a lot of people that go with a strategy where, maybe you have the fourth or fifth pick in the draft and you take, or let's say 6 or 7, and you take Dalvin, and then you flip to the second and you take not Najee. Why is my brain not working? Hold on a second.
Repeat what you just said.
You take Dalvin or Najee in the first round, and then at the turn, you take CeeDee Lamb. I don't know why my brain is. So you take CeeDee, and then in the third round, there's the option right in that vicinity where you could go T. Higgins, or you could take one of the old head running backs. Zeke. I don't know if Fournette will get that far, but Zeke is in that range.
James Conner.
You also could take James Conner, Cam Akers, some of those guys. I might end up, I don't know that I would end up going 2 wide receivers at that point, but so it just depends on what your team look is by the time you reach that fourth round. But I'm going to have to go with Travis Etienne, the running back for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This guy has been a breakout for us pretty much all offseason, especially with the injury of James Robinson, which for some reason he's got iron Achilles over there. They heal 6.5 times faster than Cam Akers.
Yeah.
So
which is why I'm not stressed out about it.
There's reports that James Robinson possibly could play week 1 or 2. I don't think so, but we'll have to see. But Etienne's going to be the starting running back. There's been concerns about his size limiting his ability to become a workhorse running back, yada, 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 yada. Heard it before. DeAndre Swift's too small. Alvin Kamara's too small. I don't like this too small bullcrap argument for running backs in fantasy football. It just doesn't matter. If you pass catch, that's legitimately all that matters.
So that's the thing. It's like he doesn't need to have Derrick Henry 400 carries. He's going to be a pass catching running back. So
Derrick Henry needs 400 carries because he gets targeted 20 times.
Right.
So there's that.
Exactly.
But I think. I'm concerned about if there's legitimate concerns about things, it's Jacksonville's offense. Does it suck? Is it complete trash? Do they move the ball maybe 5% better than they did last year? If that's what it looks like, then Etienne's going to be trouble. But we've seen bad Jacksonville offenses bring up RB1s. Leonard Fournette did it when he was there. James Robinson has done it while he's been there. And now you have Travis Etienne, a first-round running back who played with Trevor Lawrence in college and is going to get some opportunity this year to do it. If he breaks off early into the season, you have a breakout running back for 2022, and you got him in the fourth round. Now, the fourth round is a dead zone for running backs. Usually, you draft a running back in the fourth round, and the guy's garbage. Like, or it ends up hurting your fantasy team because you drafted a guy to, like, unless they had like high, like Damian Harris was a 4th round pick last year, I think. And that didn't work out too badly for you. But usually you see the guys like the old running backs that are starting to fade away. Todd Gurley has been a 4th round pick, right? I would say Zeke's starting to get to that point where maybe next year he's a 4th round pick and then he collapses and his whole career falls apart. You know what I mean? Like, running backs at the end of time start going. Those old guys start going in the 4th round, and that's where the collapses start happening. And people start going, "Oh, well, I've seen Todd Gurley be really good. He's with Atlanta now, so I'm going to draft him in the 4th round," and then he sucks. So it's like, what's the difference now this year with the 4th round running backs? They're young. J.K. Dobbins, injury, young. Travis Etienne, injury, he's young. So it's like, these guys have dealt with injuries, but they're also on the younger and beginning side of their career, and they're not going to completely crap on your team. So I think there's a difference this year with those 4th round running backs than there ever has been. But ETN is going to be a breakout running back. So I'll plant my flag there. I love Travis.
Yeah, I'm with you on ETN. For the people that are concerned about James Robinson, just remember how Cam Akers looked last year in the playoffs coming back from an Achilles. That's what James Robinson is going to look like so even if he does play early on, he's not going to be good, and ETN will get majority of the work. So ETN's a good choice. I'm going to go with Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah, of course. What was the other guy?
He's
should
borderline.
I go 2 wide receivers in a row? I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, I have so many receivers on this list, but that's okay. Michael Pittman Jr., a guy who I think is probably going to, has a real chance of being a low-end wide receiver 1 this year. I have him projected as that. You're getting in the 4th round. I mean, it's just really, really good value.
That's dirty.
There's nobody else. What was it?
I said that's dirty.
It is dirty. There's nobody else on the Colts, really. The wide receiver 2 is Alec Pierce right now, who's a rookie. Paris Campbell, who has gotten hurt every single year of his career. So Michael Pittman is going to be the main guy in an offense that should be, I'm not saying it's a huge upgrade at all, but it's a slight upgrade with Matt Ryan to Carson Wentz. And Matt Ryan historically, I saw a stat the other day, has really supported his. Now, granted, it's been Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, but he really likes to support whoever his wide receiver 1 is. Like, he overly targets the top guy. Even last year, a little bit with Kyle Pitts, he started to at the end of the season. So that should all be good things for Michael Pittman. He's in a year 3 potential breakout. All the signs are pointing to him having a huge breakout season. And he was still the wide receiver, 17 last year. So I think he's going to have a monster year. And in the 4th round, it feels like stealing.
Yeah, that's really where, like, I talk about the running back dead zone, generally speaking. The wide receiver position is usually an area where you start really hitting guys where you're like, okay, this guy could break out. And Pittman has been almost a consensus breakout for a lot of people. But he is, I think he's an absolute smash this year. I've loved Pittman since he came out. And hopefully Matt Ryan's good. That the revolving door at quarterback needs to end soon. So I'm honestly surprised that Indianapolis didn't go out and draft like a Malik Willis or something.
Yeah, I was a little surprised about that too. I thought they would.
I feel like that would have been absolute robbery. But now he's over in Tennessee and
division rival.
Yeah, so that's not a good thing. And he was a 3rd round pick, correct?
Think so.
For some reason, I thought he went way later, and then I heard he was
3rd or 4th.
I was like, okay, he's got a shot to start at some point. Right. We're okay.
Maybe.
But so I agree with Michael Pittman. I think there's a very, very high ceiling for him. All of these players look really. If we had a dynasty, not a dynasty team. Well, if we had a dynasty team with all these players, that would be unfair. But if you had a fantasy team with all these players, which you 100% could do, it's not bad.
No, not at all.
So those are some must-draft guys in the early rounds. We have a lot more guys that, if we had to make a list in each round, there's a lot more guys that we would say are must-draft players, but I think we agree. The one thing I was going to say, Rick, was in the 4th round, if I had taken Pittman, would you have taken ETN?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There we go.
Those are the 2 guys that I would have. would have done.
Round 1, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Round 2, Swift, Williams. Round 3, Higgins, Brown. Round 4, ETN, Pittman Jr. We got a mock draft tomorrow, so be sure to check that out. And then we got a long week of content until we get to the NFL season. See you later, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.